What's up, everyone? My name's Karma, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A. Now, this is going to be the first episode, so I got some questions made up by a friend on Steam, and he's going to just basically give them to me, and I'm going to answer them. Next episode, though, you can just leave a comment, and I guess I'll just give my opinion on a particular thing. Now, this is just me talking. I have no evidence or statistics or really anything to back up what I'm saying, and it's just more me being unfiltered and just, talking about stuff just from what I've seen. And yeah, I guess that's it. So, first question that we got is, who is my favorite player in CSGO? I mean, that's really hard because I think in CSGO I've had stages where I've had favorite players. So I guess when I first entered the game in 2013, it was Get Right. And then in 2014, it was probably Kenny S because he was playing insane. And even 2015, he wasn't too bad. But I guess, yeah, I have a lot of favorite players. But I'll just go through them with you right now. So yeah, like I said, 2013, I really got into the game. And that's when I started watching NIP. And NIP was, at the time, one of the top 3 teams in the world, maybe even still the best. I can't specifically remember what period I was watching it, but I'm pretty sure they were still the best. And yeah, I mean, I really liked Get Right. He had a really cool playstyle because his playstyle was more about thinking about the game and rather than just raw mechanical skill. And then toward 2014, that was when Kenny S kind of had a rise in his form and started being the best player in the world. And just the style that he had was so flashy. And he was just doing stuff that I'd never seen before out of a player in the game. I watched it for maybe half a year before I started really seeing Kenny S kind of as the world's best player. I mean, he was pulling off clutches with, him being the last one alive, and he'd just kill 3 players because they'd all peek him. And people were just really stupid back then, I guess, in the game. But also, I mean, he did hit like a really huge peak in form, and it's debatable whether he was the world's best player, but I think he was, because he was on like the worst team, or one of not the worst team, but he was on a team that was pretty bad, that had structure, but they had like no firepower beyond Kenny S really. I mean, RPK kind of came in and he wasn't so good at the game. Kaylee was good, but apparently he was cheating, so there's that. Existence has always been pretty bad at CSGO. In CSS, he was pretty good from what I'd seen. But yeah, in Go, he was just an average sort of player. Sometimes pretty bad. And then you had, I'm trying to remember, Maniac, he was just an average kind of player. He'd play a very supportive kind of style. And he wasn't really a flashy player. And then we had Apex, who was the entry fragger, who had a lot of flair and had a lot of power, but a lot of the times I felt like he wasn't used so well. So yeah, then I guess in 2015, my favorite player would have been Shox. Shox really had like a good set of form, and he started to eventually be kicked out of his team, which was LDLC/Envious, and he started to essentially, I guess, try and restart G2 up, or Titan. And I really liked his style. He was one of the players that had just this crazy style where he'd just peek out and like headshot 3 people, or he'd do, a specific move that would be very intelligent. It kind of reminded me of Get Right, like back before people were really good at the game, and he would just dominate over people. But again, he was on a team that wasn't so good because they had like Maniac, RPK, Scream at the time wasn't even really that good, and some other players like Smiths, who's always been pretty bad, I guess, in CSGO. But yeah, so then we're getting into 2016 territory. 2016, I don't know, I guess Device really, just because he had that style that was so consistent, and he'd use the AWP and the rifle and the pistol, and he'd be good with every single one of them. I did like Olofmeister for a while in 2015 and 2014, but particularly I didn't like him at the same time because he was on the world's best team. And it's kind of hard to really like the world's best team in a lot of ways because you have so many other teams that you wish would just win a title, and you kind of get bored of seeing the same old people winning over and over and over again. But yeah, so Device 2016, Shocks 2015, 2014, Kenny S, 2013, Get Right, and I didn't watch in 2012, so yeah. Favorite 1.6 player? That's tough again. I didn't really watch 1.6 that much because I was just a kid at the time. Especially when like Heaton was playing and things like that, I wasn't watching. But I guess I watched a couple of matches and I knew who some of the pros were, like Forrest and Neo and stuff like that. But I wasn't really super into watching the game as an esport. But yeah, I guess Neo would be like one of my favorite players just because he used movement and his brain in combination with his aim to kind of, I guess, dominate the game and really hard carry his team. It's one of those rare kind of moments in time where you see someone so good at something and then, when they transition to CSGO, they're just not the same. I mean, Neo knew wall bangs that people didn't know. He was incredibly fluid with his movement and would just move and shuffle around the map in a way that you wouldn't really expect. And he got a lot of easy kills out of it. He was more of an intelligent player rather than just like this monster. But he could actually like flick that switch and become a monster. And especially some of the POV demos that I've seen of him, he is just really a player who I think was the everyman. He could AWP, he could rifle, he could pistol, and he just used every trick in the book to gain an advantage. And I guess that's why VP is still so successful now, is because players like Neo and Taz are still using things that they weren't dependent on in 1.6. I think that's why when you look at those players that were really good in 1.6, like Forrest, he just had monster aim, really, when you think about it. I mean, he had some smart plays, but he was nowhere really near the level of Neo in terms of understanding every aspect of the game. Forrest kind of pioneered the way that you would rifle with bursts and tapping and spraying. He had pretty much all of those down, and he just had like that monster aiming style. But someone like Neo and Taz, I think they're really valuable to a team because not only do they focus on nades and smokes and their aim, but they also focus on understanding how the way of the map flows and just how to keep in the game, how to have the team spirit alive, and just understanding that if someone's not performing, it doesn't particularly mean that you need to cut them. So yeah, I guess Neo would be my favorite 1.6 player, legend of the game, and I guess it's a very stereotypical pick, but I mean, he was the best in my eyes. Who is my favorite AWPer in CSGO? Kind of like the first one, I have a lot of AWPers in particular phases that I liked. But overall, I'd say Kenny S. Just because he hit that peak, he was the best for a very long time and on one of the worst teams. Well, not the worst, but on a very bad team, he was still, doing amazing. And it's a very rare kind of experience to see a player like that. And we'll probably never see someone as good as him with the AWP ever again in CSGO. I mean, Guardian's gotten pretty close to that, but even Guardian, I don't think is far, thus far has really proven himself to be as good as Kenny S was. Now, whether Kenny S was, instructed by someone like Existence to be that good and to understand the game on such a level where he could do those clutches and things like that, I have no idea. But it was very clear that after the AWP nerf, he fell off the map. Yeah, he fell off the map, and as a result, I've never seen a player kind of hit that peak again. So yeah, has to be Kenny S. You could make a case for Guardian, but it depends on what you value. Consistency-wise, some people would say Guardian, because throughout his entire career has always been like pretty much top 5 AWPer, whereas Kenny S kind of has dropped off a little bit, but in overall peak, I think Kenny S is the best AWPer, and he's my favorite. Highest team or league that I've played on? League-wise, CGO. Highest team, I can't remember their name because it was such a stupid name, and it's just one of those things. I think it was Veneta Alliance or something like that. But I haven't really particularly played any sort of professional or serious Counter-Strike. It's just really not my thing. I don't think I'm cut out for it. I'm clearly not good enough, so there's that. If I can't beat the best in Australia, then there's no way I'm going to be able to advance any further than that. I've hit my skill cap, I think. But I do think maybe as a coach or something like that, I could be pretty good at that, because I think I understand the game on a certain depth and level that most people probably don't. But even then, I don't think I could coach like a serious team or anything like that. It's just not something that I think is a reality, really, and especially in the Australian scene. I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of coaches out there, but there's not a lot of teams that get paid, and it's not really worth my time investing in it, because right now I'm studying for law and psychology, and it's a bit weird to kind of, divert so much time into something where you're not going to build really anything, and there's very little people who really want to coach who's never really had any achievements in the game. So there's probably a bunch of candidates ahead of me, and it's just not something I'm really interested in. Do I still enjoy CSGO as a game? Watching it? Not really. I think I'm all CSGO'd out. I had 3 good years of just watching the game straight and binge watching it and staying up late and doing stuff like that, but I've kind of slowed down now and I'm not really enjoying the game. I think it's because there's a lot of ambiguity right now in terms of the CSGO scene. There's a lot of teams that can beat each other. Like, the top 5 teams right now is basically SK, Virtus Pro, Astralis, FaZe, and North or something like that. And pretty much all those teams can beat each other. And then you got like the rest of the top 10 teams, so the other 5, which would be like Fnatic, NIP, I'm just thinking Envious or G2 and Na'Vi, who, they can all beat each other as well. So it just depends on, I think, understanding and having a solid ground right now with the CSGO scene. But on top of that, I think like the CSGO scene has lost a lot of its luster. It's become a lot more professional with things like E-League and ECS and ESL Pro League, to the point where I kind of feel like, you would have like a DreamHack tournament or something like that every weekend. And I used to watch it because it used to be really enjoyable. But now it's like there's leagues on during the week at like 5 a.m. There's about 10 matches on. And, I got to go to uni the next day. So it's like I'm not really going to watch this and look at it, because it's just a league. It doesn't really matter that much. When people had those dream hacks, you would have it on a weekend and would be over in 3 days. So you'd just binge watch it. You'd stay up late every day and just watch it on that weekend. And I used to really enjoy that, because at the end you got a happy conclusion. You would see like one team won the tournament, or you would see, the progression of teams. And I find LAN games a lot more enjoyable because there's more pressure, and there's, the factor of the crowd and just the overall viewing experience and the stage and the interviews. And the desk itself, I like listening to people like Thorin and Anders and Semler and Moses just talk about stuff. Same with Richard Lewis. So it's just, I feel like CSGO has just become this like online cup thing, because they have the most of the prize pool, and then a major or the LAN stage of that cup comes along sort of in the middle of the year. So I'm not really enjoying it right now. The major was good. I watched the last major, but yeah, I'm not really too into, watching an online cup, because it's pretty boring. But yeah, as far as playing it, I enjoy playing it. It's a fun game still. I'm not sick of it yet. I have about 3,000 hours pumped into the game, and I'm still enjoying it. So yeah, I think it just depends on how you particularly see things and what's going on with the scene right now. Plus, I don't really find it enjoyable if it's like teams can just beat each other and there's like no like upsets or things like that. When you have like a team like Fnatic who's been on the top for so long, and then you watch some team like, I don't know, Vega Squadron or something stupid upset them, then you kind of like take that victory and you think, wow, like what a great game, or you know, this is such a monumental moment in CSGO. Like there's nothing really like that right now. Pretty much all the top 5 teams have won a major at some point, except for Na'Vi, who's a top 10 team. But I mean, like teams like NIP, Fnatic, Astralis, I guess G2 in some method, and yeah, have won a major together at some stage. Those players. The only team that really hasn't is North, and even then, they're not the best Danish team. So, you know, it just depends on your outlook. Who do I think will be the best team in 2017? That's a tough one to ask because it's so ambiguous, like I said earlier, that it's really hard to pick one particular team who will be the best. Probably would think that Astralis would be the best, just because they've had such a good start. They already have one major trophy under their belt, and as a result, it's a bit hard to pick another team right now that I could see being the best team, but maybe Virtus.pro. I'm putting my money on Virtus.pro because they consistently show that they're a really good team, and they've been able to work through most of their issues that they have. The problem with Virtus.pro is they kind of like peak in particular areas and they don't consistently play very well throughout a year. So it just depends. I mean, I know that probably sounds really hypocritical based on what I said earlier, but when I say they're like consistently shown that they're a good team, it's like year on year they've shown that they can, you know, stay toward the top 5. That's what I mean by consistency. But yeah, throughout a year, they're not very consistent. Because you'll have like January, February, March, they'll play really good. And then maybe somewhere around like August, they get good again. And somewhere in between there, they'll probably have like a slump. So it just depends. But, you know, I think they'll bounce back. And they'll probably win some very big trophies and particular tournaments that will maybe put them as the best team ever. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave any questions for the next episode in the comments section. I will actually do a next episode on this because I enjoyed making this video. It was really fun. And I just got to give my opinions. If you want like statistics and things like that, I guess I can include it in the next one. But I enjoyed just being off the cuff and just talking about things and really just giving my opinion. Of course, my opinion's probably going to be wrong in a lot of ways. But that's fine, you know, this isn't about, you know, objective things, it's just how I feel and what I'm thinking right now. So, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Like the video, and you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/KarmaFTW. With that out of the way, thanks for watching.